everyone. Welcome to Doctrine Pod, a platform where we collaborate with key stakeholders in the industry to drive meaningful, insightful, and engaging conversations around creatives in the media space. Now, in case you do not know, Doctrine Pod is an asset of Doctrine, the academy where creatives learn, collaborate, and upscale. My name is Omolola Mo. Welcome to the culture of creatives. In the studio with me today is one of the biggest names in the media industry. Is somebody with over 30 years of experience, and while in the university, he was nicknamed editor. I mean, that's to tell you that this is a man of timber and caliber. Ladies and gentlemen, join me as I make welcome the Group Executive Director, Omnicom Media Group, West and Central Africa, Mr. Yinka Adebayo.
Hello.
Thank you so much for joining us on the
Thank
show,
you so much
sir.
for having me, Omolola.
How are you doing today?
Very well, I'm good.
We're so pleased to have you. We have an exciting conversation before us today. We'll be discussing how brands can spend their budget for maximum marketing impact. But before we get into that, Mr. Yinka, while I was introducing you earlier, I said you were nicknamed editor in university. What's the story behind that? I mean, it was your university days. How could anybody have known that you become an editor and all of that?
Are you sure you're ready for that?
I am ready.
Well, it's a long story, really. I think what happened was the fact that when we first got into the university, we were studying mass communication, and the lecturer of communication, just said, "You guys are supposed to be journalists, but I'm sure you are not exposed. So I'm just going to test you to know how good you guys are in terms of writing." So he read up a script and told us to generate a story from it. And lo and behold, I wrote a story. I wrote it and submitted. By the time he was coming back the next day to give us the script, he just singled out my script and said, "Whoever has written this news or this story deserves to be an editor. That this could have only come from the editor of the Daily Times." And I was like, lo and behold, he called my number, MC 10716. And he read the intro. And I still record the intro till today. The federal military government has again been commended for introducing the structural adjustment program (SAP), which has turned many Nigerians into innovative elements rather than mass men. He said that intro could only have come, and he said, "Who is the person?" And I stood up. Immediately I stood up. He said, "This could have only have come from an editor." And lo and behold, everybody in the class just said, "Look." And that was how I got that name. And interestingly for me, never had any experience, never had any training in journalism. But one thing was destructive. Yeah. When I was still in secondary school, my dad used to take us in his car from home to school then. I know each time we are driving, he would always buy a copy of Daily Times. And when he buys it, he would, because I'm the first son, so I sit beside him in front of the car. So he just drop it on my lap and said I should be reading to his hearing. So he did that for so many years. I never knew I was being trained as a journalist. So when the story came, some of those stories I've read to his hearing just came in.
It was original.
And he said, "Bam, it was perfect." And lo and behold, that was how the name editor from school till tomorrow. In fact, today, many of my colleagues we still see, many of them reckon with me, they know me more as editor than my real name. But lo and behold, yeah, we are today.
Such a beautiful story. Thank you so much for sharing with us, Mr. Yinka.
Thank you.
I mean, it's also one of the things we are going to touch on, because I'm about to say that if it was in the world of today, maybe your lecturer would have said you use the AI or something, because that's what is currently trending.
Absolutely.
And for an intro as grand as that, nobody would believe that anybody thought of that in their head and all these things. Absolutely. Thank you so much again for joining us on the show, editor.
Nice to be here. Thank you.
All right. Now, so we are going to get into the conversation proper. Like I said, what we're discussing today is around how brands can spend their budget for maximum marketing impact. Before now, brands would spend a little amount of budget and they'll get the most conversion. But with the advent of digital media, it's a different ball game, as consumers' experience are no longer the same. The same target audience that you're going to meet on TikTok is not the same you're going to meet on Facebook. The same people who read magazine are not necessarily the same people who use Instagram. And because of that, brands need to be very strategic when it comes to how and where they spend their marketing budget. The topic we're discussing today is the spend mix, and Mr. Yinka Adebayo, being the man of timber and caliber that he is, will be helping us shed more light on this. Okay, so Mr. Yinka, is there any campaign that is most memorable for you where a brand was able to strategically spend their marketing budget and they got, the best of conversion. Can you remember any campaign like that?
Yeah, I think the one instructive for me was will be Indomie. What we did during the pandemic, when everything was on lockdown and everybody was practically off the media space. Of course, the eyeball that most brands were looking for were seated at home then, and nobody was watching TV anymore because, of course, when you turn on the TV,
What
it
you
was
see is,
negative news left, right,
yeah,
and center. And we
yeah.
came up with this concept in conjunction with DSTV. That was when we came up with the concept of Owambe Saturday with Indomie.
I remember.
And the whole idea was born out of the fact that, yes, negative news all over. And your ability, you say, crisis. We need to be aware of the fact that many of our buying decisions are informed more by emotional consideration rather than rational. When you do what I love, or you come to me at my pain point and you relate with me, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go all out for you anytime, rather than when everything's going. So that period was a pain point. Everybody was almost losing hope, and our ability to survive that crisis period was for us to have hope that look, there's light at the end of the tunnel. So Indomie came to the party dancing with the idea of Owambe starter, because at that time, one of the things we love doing in this climb is that we like going to parties. On Owambe Saturday, people love to go to birthdays, wedding ceremony, and because of the lockdown, nothing of such. So rather than how do we give people hope that what you are missing because of the lockdown, we can actually bring it to the comfort of your home. And we partner with DSTV, brought in the live band to TV, encourage people to say during this period, still going to watch that Owambe you cannot go to, stay in the comfort of your home, dress up as if you are going to party, cook Indomie with your family, and make sure that you dance. Then send us video clips, and you have opportunity of enjoying some moments of fame on here, just to help people mentally to have their mental balance and know that, look, this crisis period, this pandemic, this COVID period is going to come to an end. And lo and behold, it just caught on like wildfire. It rubbed up positively on the brand equity, it rubbed up positively on sales, and it rubbed up on so many parameters, and it was so that for me was really iconic, and it shows you clearly how we've been able to connect to people at their pain point and give them hope and aspiration. And immediately when the crisis is over, here we are now. People can still remember. I just mentioned it now, you still remember. And I'm sure some memories would have come back to say, oh, thank God for Owambe Saturday, because it was really a mental relief for most people.
It was. Now, my question is, you use DSTV, the old traditional media and all of those things, because nobody would have thought that traditional media can come to the aid of people in that way. Everybody was, logged in with their social media, joining different trends and all of those things. But I also know that this Owambe campaign also trended online. Was that also part of the strategy, or it was just something that came in organically?
Well, it was part of the strategy. You see, your ability, when I talk of strategies, is something that we use loosely. When you are strategizing, you need to see the end from the beginning, to think through and know what potholes to avoid and what to bring in. You see, there are some people you lean on in life. The only place they take you is up. Are you smart enough to identify them? Are you smart enough to pick them? Are you smart enough to do a value proposition to them in a way that they see the value from that? During that period, we were smart enough to log in all together, from traditional to digital. And for the digital place, who are you using then? Many of the celebrities, because you know that when you go to Owambe party, in addition to the music and food, one of the things that gives you excitement during Owambe is equally comedians who will crack you up. So we partner with a couple of comedians and letting them see the value from their own angle rather from the brand angle. Because that period, everybody was forgetting anything that could be forgotten. Meaning that even celebrities that we are not being celebrated anymore. So guys, for you to gain relevance, better join the party. And they came onto the party. And they did. And what they'll do, imagine a situation where Brother Shaggy would have gone on here to say, guys, I'm going to be on Owambe today. That means all his followers who are monitoring on social media, you are building a convergence. And before you know it, Brother Shaggy was there, TA was there, Kenny Black was there, Omo Baba, and it was just natural. But it's just a combination of both traditional and digital. And that for me is to say none is going to die for the other. Both are complementary. Brands just need to get smarter about how to use them, thinking through and making sure that they see the end from the beginning.
See the end from the beginning. Thank you so much for your response. As somebody who is very strategic, you have to know the end from the beginning. And speaking of this Indomie Owambe campaign, I remember it just like yesterday. I remember all my aunties from Isalaiko calling my mommy, Oti Bere, that means they've started. And all of us will just be in front of our TV, be dancing, be vibing. I love it. Thank you so much, sir.
Welcome.
So now we're going to move to the next question. And you know how we talk about, sometimes brands don't have the budget and that's why they're not getting the best results. Let's talk about brands that actually have the budget, but they're not spending right. they are not being strategic about their placement to the end that they spend such amount of money, and at the end of the day, they are saying nothing. What are your thoughts around those kind of
Well,
brands?
I think the question brand has never they've never had there's never the budget is never available. They've never had budget because oftentimes it's either cutting budget, and that of course should be the case really because everybody is looking at how to cut cost
Yeah, to
and
maximize
maximize
profits.
returns really.
Yeah.
So which is understandable. But when you bring in compelling ideas, you can rest assured that the budget that is not available, they will bring it out. So what that calls for is the fact that we need to be much more strategic, much more cautious, much more deliberate and intentional about our plans. You need to be able to first is to understand what are the objectives that I seek to achieve. Then identify who are the people I need to achieve it with. Because they are the one that will drive the objective for you. Once you identify them, you now need to drill down by really understanding and unmaxing the audience. I always tell people, yes, data is good, and naturally that's why you need to use data effectively to guide your decision in terms of strategizing. But it's equally important that numbers, data is number, and numbers don't talk. It is people that will speak to it. So it's important for us to understand the stories behind the numbers so that we're able to speak to it meaningfully, constructively, impactfully, and perhaps, if necessary, collaboratively. So all of these are very important, and it's important, clearly, particularly in this age, to constantly unmark the audience,
Yes, ma'am.
particularly the younger generation who are so unstable, who are so restless. So, and your ability to equally get hold of them is your ability to really move with them, to really trend
Yeah.
with them, to really understand. I keep on telling people that change in previous years, since year past, it used to be you can plan for a quarter, you can plan for 6 months, you can even plan for 1 year,
Actually,
which is good. But these days, change happens by seconds. If it happens by second, you equally need to know how best to keep a close tab. Since the birds have learned to start flying without perching, we the hunters need to learn to shoot without missing.
hey! Wait, let me soak that in. Mr. Yinka. Thank you so much. I
Thank
have
you.
a follow up to that actually. Another way in which brands think that they can cut budget or manage their budget is they try to use their in-house marketing team. We have the best and let them do it and all of that. What do you have to say when it comes to a particular campaign and a brand deciding to use their in-house marketing team as opposed to handing that campaign to a proper agency that understands the market, that can come up with solid campaign ideas that would help you sell whatever product or services it is
Well,
that
for
you
me, it
offer?
doesn't really matter. It is that because what you are talking about is just location. Whether they are located outside or whether they are located inside. Whether outside or inside, it's still people, talent that are used. The question is, those people you are using, do they know what they are doing? Do they know if they know their onions, give it to them. But if they don't know, then your best bet is to outsource to professional. Because like you rightly said, the budget is scarce. If it's scarce, whatever cover needs to generate returns. So if you want the maximum returns, make sure that you give it to those who can deliver the value.
Maybe I need to ask this question in another way. Do you think that people on the inside understand the job when compared to people on the outside? Because you are the in-house marketing team of a brand. Apart from strategy and all of those things, you probably do some other paperwork and all those things. But for an agency, that is what you are employed for. You were employed to ideate, to think, to come up with ideas, to follow trends, to manage trends and all of those things. So I think the question I actually want to ask is, when it comes to campaigns, mind-blowing ideas, do you think that the people on the client side in the marketing team can match with
Why not? They
the
can.
agency?
And I need to let's just put some things in context now. There are some organizations who have in-house team, and those in-house team are as good as those you have outside because they actually brought in from. I've seen some clients too who now engage people, recruit people from agency and bring them in, and their only job is just whether creative or even doing some of those marketing stuff for them. So they're equally as good. It now depends on location. But where you now have people who, in addition to covering sales, covering distribution, now keep on thinking marketing. I think that's where you think, that's a misplaced priority. Those outside
Exactly.
will be more better. And for me, in most cases, really, agencies, they are there for a purpose. If you want to have the responsibility in-house, well, of course, it's your choice. Maybe in an attempt to cut costs, but has its implication. Because when you're already in-house, there's a tendency to be biased. Unlike an outsider who is setting the binocular into you and dissecting your problem and advising you objectively. Somebody in-house might have one or two biases and all of that because I already know internally they tend to be emotional, they tend to cover up some fact which could actually be your opportunity to unwind the goal leg. So oftentimes that's the advantage where those outside is because they don't know you. All they are doing is just to analyze you and bring back to you the solution in a very objective and clear manner. So, and I think professionals out there would naturally do a better job. But there are some people who have said, okay, since you're outside, why not come into my team and do it? If that is their sole responsibility, and like I said earlier, they are able to use data objectively and devoid themselves of any emotional, irrespective of the fact that you are in-house. Why not? It's all an attempt to save cost.
Yeah, I actually love your submission, right? Whether in-house or outside, as long as you know the job and as long as you're not burdened with other, responsibilities and distractions. Yeah, perfect. Okay, maybe the argument has been solved finally, Sha. You agree with me that digital media is the rave of the moment. For that marketing activity, for that advertising or anything you want to do, yeah, usually just one click away. However, the question here is that does traditional media still hold that relevance with the advent of digital media? Sanka, what are your thoughts around that?
Well, I think for me, traditional media still hold so much relevance and they will continue to hold. It's just that the traditional media now have their job cut out for them, really. Like you said very rightly, digital is the rave of the moment, is the in thing and all of that, naturally. But that does not mean that all brands must now head into that direction. The traditional media still hold a high lot of responsibility when it comes to authenticity, believability, and credibility. There's some information you tell me, Mr. Yinka, I got information about this one. The question I ask you, where did you get it? And you tell me it's on Eastern blog. I say, are you sure? But if you mention to me to say, oh, I got it on maybe on like a channels.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, it must be credible because I know those people are. So traditional media they are still known for credibility, they are still known for authenticity, they are still known for a high level of believability. So that in itself, money cannot buy. And as like I said earlier, they have their job cut out for them now in the sense that you see the traditional media space, they need to be more alive to the responsibility now. Yes, they cannot match digital when it comes to fast pace or equally breaking news, for instance.
Yeah.
But it's one thing to break the news, it's another thing to be able to tell the stories behind the news. I got trained as a journalist and I know that's what we call investigative journalism.
Yes.
Meaning that whatever stories I've gotten from Instablog, Bella Niger in the morning, I know by evening when I'm sitting with your station, what I'm going to get in none of those media would have given me. That is where you go the extra mile. And that is value for money. And the same thing for the press house. If I know the news I'm going to read in Punch is almost the same thing I've read in the morning with Snapchat, what's the need for me to expose? But when I know what I'm going to get there is going to open up whatever I've gotten in the morning. Certainly there will be compelling need for me to buy. And that's one area where I think traditional media need to fight for their shit. These days, so that there will still be that compelling. And also on the digital space, there's really so much you can say. But in the traditional media, you have opportunity to really do expose. You can actually dedicate 2, 3, 4, 5, even 10 minutes, depending of course on how important the story is. You can I'll be shocked to see you have 10 minutes information passed to you on the digital space. It's just brief, sharp, and saying, break the news. But in addition, the details of that news, the story behind the story, you can only get it.
And Mr. Yinka, you also know the thing about digital users and their attention being everywhere. So even if you have the space, you have the whole world count to express yourself, give details of the news. How about the people who are supposed to read that news? Because I go on social media and on some days I'm seeing somebody will just drop a tweet. No be me go read waiting, you just type. I beg, can somebody summarize what this person just said? So I think that yes, I totally agree with you because when it comes to digital media, if you want to watch a news, it's either you watch it or you're not watching it. It's either you listen to the presenter or you're not listening to the presenter. But if I'm just scrolling on my phone, I can't even get distracted by anything. And I'm even already reading comments. What is this thing that you typed and all of that? But another question I also have is when it comes to digital media, I know that one of the things that media houses usually fight for is scoop, is something, right? And with the advent of digital media, before a channels can carry a news, and it's even something that people drag these traditional media for, before a channels can carry a news that happened 2 minutes ago, it's already on different blog, it's already on this blog, it's already on that blog, everybody knows about it. And it's just maybe news at 9 p.m. before the traditional media will now start talking about it. Or in the tomorrow edition of a print newspaper, that's when a particular dailies will be talking about it. What are your thoughts around this whole scoop thing? Because I know it used to be a thing around journalists. I want to be the first to break the news. Our channel is the first to do this and that. They are gradually losing it.
Yeah, like you said earlier, like I said earlier, the traditional space cannot fight digital when it comes to that scope, when it comes to breaking the news. They will always break it first.
But that's something that the traditional media is known for.
No, not there before now, but then we had limitations. Maybe before the advent of this time, that I know I probably have to wait for 7 p.m. news or 9 p.m. news or 10 p.m. news to get details. But now you can have it on the go. But the question is, for me as a traditional media, what am I doing to say, hey, that news you've gotten on digital place in the morning, the story behind it, the details of it, you can have it more. Of course, that story you will probably have picked it up in the morning and you've elicited interest, but you just have it because there's so much the digital guys can say. But the detail, that's why you go. How you say, it's not for me to now wait for you till 7, 9, or 10 p.m. before you. What's stopping from giving you highlight to say, hey, that story about the plane crash, stay by 9 o'clock, get the details. Because people will always mark out their time for what they know. The question is, are you pre-informing them? Are you preferring them to prepare them to say, hey, 9 p.m. today, mark it out for me? Because that story you've seen in the morning, the details of it, and when they get there at 9, they are not disappointed. I mean, be rest assured that they'll be watching out for you. You see, oftentimes for many of us, we do so much talking than doing, and the day we learn to really do rather than talk, the better. I hear you when you mention something and attention span is low. People I have to mention, yeah, attention span will be low if you don't give them what they want. But when you give them value, they will mark. Is it not the same Gen Z that spend hours playing games? Is it not the same Gen Z that I see at party? The video is performing 9 p.m. 3 hours. The show is over. They are still waiting. Bring more. You can get them hold. You can keep them. When you give them value, you see, the only thing in life that people don't run away from is value. When value is on the table, the blind will see and the deaf will hear. Put value on the table and see how they'll gravitate towards it.
I love it. Value is that one thing that people never run away from. But Mr. Yinka, do you think that brands in Africa also share the same POV? Because there are some brands, they don't even want to go traditional. They feel like you are wasting their money. Just give me digital. Put me on blogs. Put me on this. Put me on that. Don't go close to traditional media. Do you think brands in Africa share the same POV about the values that traditional media still hold?
Yes, I must confess that a whole lot of them still share that same point of view, and some of them are actually. I have a brand, I won't mention name, who initially, I think about 2 years ago, said, "Look, I don't want to do traditional, just get digital." And lo and behold, they went digital. We allowed it. A year later, by the time they did a survey in terms of awareness, people didn't even remember them, and they were like, "Wow, well, you spend on digital, you can play traditional. Can you come back to?" It shows you clearly that traditional is still very, very much, and depending, of course, on the nature of campaign you are running, depending, of course, on the, like I said, the objective you want to achieve, the audience you are talking to. There's some information you can pass on digital space and it will trend, and there's no, but there's some vital information that you want to talk about a product, or you want to talk about your new identity, there's some information that are still relevant. The credibility of the authenticity of it, the believability of it is still tied to traditional, even though you probably will want to maintain some presence of digital space. In the digital space, the traditional media will still help you to amplify, but also remember the definition of mass communication, which said that is communicating with the masses who are heterogeneous and anonymous. You can't even estimate. I can tell you the number of people you deliver via digital, but when it comes to traditional place, it's massive. And bear in mind, one of our key challenges in this climate is also still data. Data is still a struggle for most people, particularly the low end. And those low end, for me, that's what they call fortune at the bottom of the pyramid. They might be low, they might be the masses, but they equally have the strength of numbers. And these are people who, when you make impact on them, when they get hold of your communication, be rest assured they will spread it. They will share it, they will communicate it, and they are what you call your influence dispenser. And that's very instructive.
I love that. I love that. Very last question before we move to the next segment. When it comes to brand with very little budget, which channel is the best way to help them maximize their budget? Is it digital or traditional? Because some people even still believe that in as much as digital is taking over traditional media is still very, very expensive to run, expensive to manage. Drop your campaign on it and you are spending a whole lot. And then there's digital where you can just, with your mobile phone, just do it. When it comes to money, which one do you think is the most expensive?
Well, for me, it's neither here nor there. Even if I have 100 to spend, I would still begin to look at what exactly is the objective. We shouldn't lose sight of that. What objective do you want to achieve with this campaign? Who are the people I'm talking to? And where are they really? Where is that their convergence point? Like I said, if I'm talking to the elderly people who probably will want to prioritize their needs, you can even say, hey, put it in there because you stand a very good chance of limiting it. But for small budget, and it's something for maybe, the age bracket is for the young one, of course, you can limit yourself to digital. Depending, of course, too, on what campaign objective do I want to achieve, because
Yeah.
objective is key. So using it in there to drive. And you see, I always tell people, whether you are a big client, a medium client, or a small client, you have different media that can address your need. I'm not just saying you can't start from digital, grow it, but you get to a level where you might need the traditional media
To
to really
expand.
open up and
Yeah.
expand. When I talk to clients and they are saying no, I feel happy because it shows clearly that the picture I'm saying you are not speaking, and you don't need to see it. That's why I'm the master. If you know how to do it, you don't need me. So I like it when you are saying no. So it gives me confidence to say, oh boy, go through that route. And I make sure it's solid. So that next time when I tell you to shut up, you just keep quiet. You know, the only question you ask me is how long?
Should I keep quiet
You earn
for?
their respect. The respect is not what you ask for, it's what you
Yeah,
earn.
what
And
you
you earn it by
earn,
doing and doing consistently.
what you earn. Hi guys, welcome to the Spend Mix. This is where we create the perfect cocktail for your campaign. Now, for this segment, I'm going to pick an industry, and Mr. Yinka is going to pick his industry. And for the two industries that we've selected, we are going to create the cocktail for it. So I'll be picking the fashion industry. I'm a fashion girly. Mr. Yinka.
Well, I want to pick the finance industry. Because you need finance to for your
I'm
fashion
picking the
dream
tech
brand idea.
industry. Let's pick that industry. Please, I'm picking the fashion industry. Okay, so finance and fashion. All right. So the first question to create our cocktail is, for your finance industry, name one platform that can give the best return on investment.
One platform that can be, yeah, I think I'll go TV. Yeah.
Why?
Why? Because finance is money these days, and with the experience that many of our people have gone through, CBS just happened. Many people are still struggling. So these days they tend to be careful about where they put their investment. So you need to look at credible platform. But that to say on digital place that does not really exist. But in traditional place, there are some people who when I tell you that, oh, I got this information about this investment, and I got it from this particular channel, even you will know that, oh, they must be real, because those channels who are equally careful about what they take on and what they broadcast on here. So for finance, I'll go TV.
Okay, TV. So for fashion, I'm doing digital, and it's not because of what you are thinking, but I'll do digital. I'll do digital. I'll do Instagram to be specific, and that's because when it comes to fashion, people want to see before they buy, right? And Instagram is a platform that is, visually driven. People have to scroll before they eventually add to cart. So I'm definitely going to be doing Instagram. So, Mr. Yinka, for your finance industry, what is that one always on investment that a finance brand should never skip?
Good. And I think that's where digital now comes in to complement what I've established via traditional.
I'm not sharing my digital with anybody.
Traditional has laid the foundation. Now I can build on it on the digital place, always on. Oh, you've heard information on channels, on Arise, on CNN. Now you have believed it. It's credible. The digital place now for you to now say take action. And that digital is not just of it, because many of the brands will equally engage digital. They struggle with conversion. Because when you get my attention in digital place, you've elicited my interest and I want to take action. And you now wait for me to get to your office or to get to your job. That's why you're leaving me exposed. Because that period of me leaving my home or leaving the digital place to come to your office or job or whatever to do my purchase, any other intervening factor could come in. So meaning for me as a finance, once I've elicited your interest, very traditional, on digital place, I'm calling you to action. I'm giving you opportunity to say, oh yeah, make your order now, make your booking now, so that we can convert that your attention in digital place to immediate sales and return on investment.
This is so personal because I don't want to share my digital with anybody. Anyways, okay, so for my fashion brand, one always on investment that a fashion brand should never skip, um, I would say discounts, right? I'll say discounts, and that's because your digital is already perceived as, oh, am I getting the right thing and all of those things, right? But you also want to make it look like you're making an impact. You're not just getting money from them. You're also finding ways to also give back to them. And that's why you'd always see that you can never go wrong with discount sales. Even if when somebody is looking at something, the person didn't have any plan to buy it before. But because this thing was 10,000 naira initially, and you're giving me a 1,000 naira discount, it's now 9,000 naira. Let me quickly go and remove something and quickly buy it, right? So that's one
And
thing
you can equally use it for clearance sales.
Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. I can also use the discount for clearance sales. Thank you very much. So discount is one thing, and bringing it down to Nigerians. We love freebies. Oh. We can never take our eyes off. Yeah, that should be something. Oh, you're reducing money for me. So that's also one way to clip in my audience and ensure that we stay locked in for life. So discounts here. Now, to the third question. For your finance brand, Mr. Yinka, what is one emerging trend that you would say a finance brand should never miss?
Emerging trend. Emerging trends is the digital space. It's just emerging, it's evolving. We are not yet there, but of course, it's a good opportunity that they cannot afford to miss. They cannot afford to stay off, because of course, it's a trending thing. And you find out that the focus of most people is usually on the youthful generation, and essentially that's why over 50% of our population lies. That means there is strength in that number. So for any brand to equally be able to get the attention of people, you need to be seen as a trending brand. So that means responsibility, it behoves on them to equally consider some strategic and deliberate presence in the digital space. So which is key.
I love it. For my fashion brand, influencer marketing is not an emerging trend, I would say, but I'm also going to say that we have not explored it to the fullest. And that's why for my fashion brand, I'm going to leverage lots of influencers. And that's also because people who are mostly interested in fashion, they are mostly swayed by, what somebody that they like has said, or somebody that I like is wearing a particular brand. I also want to wear it. And that's where influencer marketing comes, like source credibility, is like endorsement. Oh, this person is wearing this thing. That means you are endorsing the brand for you to have, for you to have purchased that kind of fashion item. So influencer marketing, again, not an emerging trend, but we have not explored it to the fullest. And that's why as a fashion brand, I'm also going to lock in on that.
And let me also add that for that influencer brand too, I think
Yeah.
it's something that if only brands need to. Yes, it's good to have influencers. It's
Yeah.
equally important to make sure that you work closely with them. Work closely with them, because for many of the influencers, what has gotten them to that level of that influencing role is probably their passion. So many of them are not too very much in tune or educated about the enormity of brand building. There are some influencers you pick on today because they are trending. The next moment they are heading down the cliff.
Very
The
true.
question is, as they go down the cliff, your brand being identified with them can go down with them. So you need to be able to constantly educate them, constantly engage them, constantly let them know that what has kept them to the top. There's something we call you need to trade off in order to trade up. There are some part of them that they need to offload. Yes,
love
you've done
it.
pattern, you've done gra to get to that influencer role. As you now in the influencer role, you are carrying the weight of brands behind you. There are some things you need to trade off. There are some things you were doing before that you are not supposed to do again, so
In
that
order
you
for
can
you to
trade up.
trade up.
And in
Love
that up,
it.
in that as you go up that the ladder, you just need to shed your weight and make sure that you identify with the right people, you are in the right mix, you are saying the right things, you are doing the right value, so that the brands will be proud to be hiding and I can go on that journey with you for the long haul.
I love it so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Yinka. I hope influencers are taking notes. Sometimes you need to trade off in order for you to trade up. I love it so much. Thank you so much. And with that, we've come to the end of this Spend Mix. It has been a very insightful conversation with Mr. Yinka, who is the Group Executive Director, Omnicom Media Group. Before we wrap up, I would like for us to also extend this conversation to young marketers, people who are just, coming up in the industry. And you also agree with me that the media space, even the creative space now, a lot of young people are coming in, filling in positions and all of that. So what would be your advice to young people who are just entering into the marketing industry when it comes to how to maximize budget for, impactful campaigns?
Well, I think for me, for the young ones, I'll just say one word: farabale. Many of them seem to be so much in a hurry to achieve what took years to achieve, which is no problem. But the question is, are you ready to pay the price? Are you ready to feel the pain? If you cannot start the eat, your best bet is to stay out of the kitchen. But if you must stand the eat, if you are really determined, there are only 4 P's that I'll talk about, which is passion, perseverance, positioning, then of course the last P will come, which is patronage. What do I mean? This business of marketing is a business that you need to have what you call passion, because it's the passion that keeps you going when everything looks down. It's the passion that people will look at you, how much are they paying their your agency? That's peanuts. But you continue to endure.
Yeah.
You equally need to be able to persevere, because there's what you call period of deepening yourself. When you deepen yourself, you are making sure that when you open your mouth to speak to clients, you earn their respect. Not that when you open your mouth to speak, you only expose yourself. So you need to constantly deepen yourself. And you deepen yourself by learning, learning, and learning. That is the period of gestation. That is the period, because as you grow in this profession, if your height is greater than your depth, fall becomes inevitable. And people will find you out in no time that this guy is just, hey, he's the group marketing director, but he doesn't have
It does not
anything.
know anything.
Yes, to expose. Then once you've taken care of the passion, the perseverance, then positioning. You need to position yourself. I always tell people, you cannot be packaging brands and leave yourself unpackaged. So you must be able to package yourself so that the brand you are packaging today does not continue to grow and you are still where you are. So rather than the brand looking up to you, the brand will end up looking down on you. That's the last piece, positioning. So as you position your brand, you equally need to position yourself. And the last piece, patronage. Once you have all those 3P, passion, perseverance, positioning, well taken care of, patronage will come. And that patronage is simply value. What others are looking for will come looking for you. Referrals will come because people, you've been known, you've been positioned, you've been established as an authority who knows what is doing, who has
love
earned
it.
a stripe. And naturally, the patronage that others are looking for will naturally come looking for you.
Passion, perseverance, positioning, and patronage. Thank you so much, Mr. Yinka. On this episode of Doctrine Pod, we have something for influencers, something for emerging marketers, something for brands, even for agencies. So, I mean, there's really no way you'd be watching this conversation right now and you will not learn something. And with that, we've come to the end of Doctrine Pod. Again, Doctrine Pod is a platform where we collaborate with key stakeholders in the industry to drive meaningful conversations around creatives in the media space. Doctrine Pod is an asset of Doctrine, the academy where creatives are given the opportunity to learn, collaborate, and upscale. For everything we've done on the show today, we'd also like you to replicate it in the comment section. So go into the comments right now and drop your perfect cocktail recipe for any campaign of your choice. Do not also forget to like, subscribe, and share. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.